Good evening, lovely tubers. White Mexican back for a deck profile / duck update. This is going to be for my Kashtira build. I did play a local tournament on Thursday. It was roughly about 20 players. I was able to secure second place overall in the event. And I'm going to, if you guys aren't familiar with my videos, I do the turbo through of the deck list first, then I go over the matchups and ranking results and prize support. And yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and get into the deck profile, starting with the main deck monsters. Playset of Droll and Lockbird, playset of Ash Blossom, playset of Dimensional Shifter, 1 Ogre, 1 Scareclaw, 3 Rise Heart. This is really critical. I know every Cash player kind of has their own opinion on this. Some run 1, some run 2. I think this is extremely critical to run 3. It's a giant combo starter, and it's an extra body once you have 1 on board, so I think it's really important to run 3 in the main. Sometimes in like game 2 or 3 you can take out 1 and just run 2, but starting game 1 you definitely want to have 3. I'm a firm believer in running 3 game 1. 3 Fenrir and 3 Unicorn. For the main deck magic cards, it's going to be 1 Called by the Grave, 1 Terraforming, 3 Dimensional Fissure. Nothing but love for this card. This is the MVP of the deck. This stops Droll, this stops Effect Veiler, this stops Crow. I don't know who would really want to Crow you, but if they have a Crow, it just renders it useless, essentially. If people are randomly playing Ghost Ogre, that has to go to the grave, so it'll shut that down from them taking out your planet or birth. Really great stuff. Being a magic card, you know, main phase 1, you just drop this and you are protected to do your searching to go full combo without, you know, disruptions for the most part. It's really good. I'm a huge advocate of the card. A huge advocate for the card. I just think it's just so good. I think Cash players are really sleeping on this card. This should definitely be a 3 of in your main immediately, all 3 games for the most part. Obviously you can side out depending on your matchups if you're playing like Flu or something, but really strong card. 3 Prosperity. This is kind of the best we have right now. There are an alternative lineup, a 3 draw power lineup that I've personally labbing with right now that I'm really excited to showcase for you guys. For now, this is going to be one of the last times that I'm going to play this particular build. I'm very satisfied with it. It performed very well. Out of the 4 rounds of the event, I was able to win 3 out of 4 of the rounds. So it did what it was supposed to do, and it's really strong. But I do think that there is alterations and just a little bit of more fine tuning that I can do to really just make it a little bit more versatile, help kind of break away the brick rate, and just make it just a overall more lethal deck. And I'm really excited to get into that profile. I'll get into it here in the next couple days. Just a couple cards that I'm waiting for, and I'm still just, you know, labbing online with it just to make sure that it's something good enough to bring to the camera for you guys. 3 Planet, 3 Theosis, and 3 Birth. I know some people do not run 3 Theosis. Some players opt to play 2. I don't think that's correct. I understand that this is kind of like the biggest card that you can brick on. You know, drawing 3 of these in your opening hand just feels completely awful, but it's a super strong card. It's the E-Tully of the deck currently for the Kashtira build lineup, and it's too good not to run at 3, especially in this build when you're running Rise Hard at 3. Whatever you have removed from play is a utility box. You can summon this, remove from play a Theosis, and then you can just scoop whatever you need, and it's really great utility to gain resources. The last 3 cards is going to be 2 copies of Macrocosmos, Say No to Everything, Remove Everything, and a single copy of Preparations. Now, for a while I was citing this because it's a trap card and super slow, just like Macrocosmos, but with the current state of the meta and the type of decks that are out there, such as Horus, such as Snake Eye, Fire Kings, hybrids, Tier Element, maybe a Dark World player here or there randomly in the back of the room. There's a lot of graveyard synergy. The graveyard is a huge utility box this format, as it is in most formats, and this card specifically for the macros is just too strong to just not main. Yes, this does run 3 Shifter, but this instantly becomes a dead card. If you don't open this card, it's going to be instantly a dead card. Unless you open up Cosmos and you're just removing your whole graveyard, then that's kind of like the synergy of, but then it doesn't matter because this has to go to the graveyard. So with the Cosmos face up, you can't even proc off Shifter, so that would really just kind of negate the whole purpose of that. Again, high risk, high reward, because things like Droll can't be used under Macrocosmos. It can't be used under Shifter. It can't be used under Dimensional Fissure. But these cards just limit your opponent way too much. They're so strong. They just choke out your opponent's combo lines. And it just stops them from playing, essentially, with just these cards. So it's very high risk, but it's worth it when you don't brick out on the removal cards or you don't get too much of a conflict. It's just too much control. It's just too much manipulation of the graveyard, and it just slows your opponent down way too much, and you can just continue to surplus with your Kashira engine. It's a 40 deck main. I never run more than 40. You know, you'll little to catch me dead running a single card over 40. All of my builds for any deck is pretty much always 100% going to be 40. Extra deck is going to be 1 Baron, 1 Donner. So I did finally swap out the BLS link. I really love the BLS link. It's really, you know, nice to have the comfort of having in the extra deck. I was playing it for over a month and I did not summon it a single time. Most of the time it just became prosperity fodder, so I didn't really get an opportunity to use it because it's kind of the first, you know, cannon fodder for prosperity. Donner really is just kind of for security. If somehow you get a token or your opponent puts a body on your board and you can't get to your Fenrir special or your Unicorn special, you can kind of sweep it away with this. It's kind of lackluster. It's kind of, I don't really know. Just right now, it's just, I feel like it's better than the BLS right now. I feel like there could be a little bit more utility to it, depending on your matchups. But right now, it's kind of just a holding place, in my personal opinion. Kind of same with SP. SP is super good. I mean, you know, it's hard to argue that you're not at a disadvantage without this card, but specifically in Kashtira, the build doesn't really... It's not that it doesn't need SP, it just doesn't really go into SP that often. I know my playstyle, personally, running specifically this build, Prosperity 3, this almost instantly, just like Baron, usually goes into Prosperity fodder. If a cash player, unless they're playing a deck that turbos out Baron, that's kind of like they're hurting. That's like their fallback plan to go on to either like a Baron or an SP. They're really kind of pushing. They're trying to dig for something. So they're really just kind of like a fallback line cards. But Sky Crisis, 1 Sky Crisis, 2 Big Eye, 3 Dark Arm of Annihilation. This is something I'm changing. In the new build that I am running, I'm cutting this to 2 just because it's an excessively high removal rate card build, and this needs to have cards in the graveyard to proc off the full effect. You need to be able to detach, target, destroy, and then destroy. You need to have the material to remove from your grave. So all 3 processes need to go off to even use the effect, which is kind of dangerous in a heavy removal deck, but this card is super strong. I think 2 is going to be the healthier alternative, but that's to be noted in a future deck profile. And still to this day, Red Eyes, Flare Metal Dragon, there's a while where I cut this down to 2, but especially in this build with Prosperity being at 3, usually 1 becomes Prosperity cannon fodder. This card is just so critical. Kashtira's put so much bodies on the board so quickly. If they get their proc off their engine, and they can hit for a lot of damage very quickly. And you can risk it against the nib, play it smart. If your opponent's unlucky, doesn't have the nib, or you just, you know, time it right, go to main phase 2, hit them with 1 or 2 of these, and they're just pretty much cooked. There's not really a way, unless they open, you know, crazy Yugi top deck, they're pretty much just going to be GG's at that point. And then 3 Shangira. I know a lot of cash players tend to run 2, maybe even 1. I think that's just so incredibly insane. I think this card is so slept on. Yes, it's pretty much cannon fodder for either that Ash or that Imperm in the hand, but you want to force your opponent to use those hand traps quickly, so you can push on to your next turn with your Unicorn and your Fenrir searches, because this card, along with Unicorn and Fenrir are so explosive, they're such big threats, and they force your opponent to use resources, stopping these search effects, stopping this special summon. If you have Planet, you get, additional destruction effect, you get a lock zones. The effect that protects it by detaching doesn't even activate, it's not even an activated effect. It's got a really fat booty for protection, especially with Planet. And it's just super strong. Like these cards, when you have these on board, it forces your opponent, it presses your opponent to sweep these off board, and it forces them to use cards early. And if they don't, you essentially win. The surplus and the net gains off these 3 cards alone, if they continue to stay on the field, will push you on. Will push you onto an onslaught of victory, and it's just super good. So that's why I think Shangira is correctly played at 3. Side deck is going to be next. I did move the Cyclones to the side deck. This card's super strong. You can hit the Horus Sarcophagus. You can hit the Fire King Island against Snake Eyes Fire Kings or Pure Snake Eyes. If you have removal on board with Shifter or Cosmos or whatever it may have you can just completely sweep their whole board and they'll never get those resources back potentially. Really, really strong. It was in the main. Right now, I think it's better in the side just because I went for, obviously, a heavier removal. 2 Cosmos, 3 Fisher, 3 Shifter. So we had to make room for that. One rivalry of the Warlords. Of course, all of your Kashtira monsters are psychic. The only one that isn't psychic is randomly Riseheart is a warrior. I don't know why he's a warrior, but randomly he's a warrior. Would have been much better suited as a Kashtira, as a psychic, as the rest of them are. Even your Shangira is also psychic too as well. So you can still play under this card. There are some decks that just crumble and cripple to this card, and you can just keep on pressing forward with your psychic plays. There's going to be 3 Mind Over Matter. If you guys don't know what this is, I'm a huge advocate card for this. A lot of Kashtira players opt to play for Solemn Judgment, but Solemn Judgment is really, really terrible. If you're like me and you have long matchups and you go to Game 3, if you're running out of time, you don't want to run Judgment, but you need protection against Evenly Matched, against Nibiru, potentially, against, my playstyle is you kind of just, you don't summon more than 4 times unless, you have like the Vanities or something. Or if you're playing a Talents variant and you looked at their hand and ripped the Nib, you just gotta be very, very careful. Nib is one of the most detrimental enemies of this deck, just like Zeus. But going first in that Game 3, if you're lucky to go first, you need to have protection against Harpy's Feather Duster and Evenly Matched. And Zeus, potentially, if you don't rip it with Unicorn. There's a lot of things that can really hurt you going first in Game 3. So you need this protection, and you don't lose half your life points. All you do is you proc off a Psychic, and you have plenty of Psychic fodder to go around. You have Birth if you have removal under it, you can, whatever you tribute, you can get back with Birth next turn. If you have Preparations face up, you can just proc it back that same turn and just have another threat, another body for your opponent while they're trying to figure out what to do after the Evenly Matched or the Harpy's Feather Duster falls through because of this card. It's a counter just like Judgment. It's just super, super good. It's essentially the same thing as Judgment. It just doesn't force you to get stressed about losing in time and life points, and it's just really, really good. So obviously these are going to be, going first cards. You would only run these going first as a floodgate protection, just the same as Vanity's Fiend. Now, technically, this could be a first or second card, but if your opponent's going first and they get full combo and you don't have anything to slow them down, it's going to be really, really difficult to find utility in this card. I personally believe, White Mexican Theory, that this is 100% a going first card. I think 1 is not enough, I think 2 is just right, and I think 3 is too much. That's too bricky. Especially with this particular build, at least currently with 3 Prosperity, more than likely there's a pretty good chance, I would say about a 50-50% chance that you can proc a Vanity's Fiend as long as you don't brick or just open up like anti-premium. There's a pretty good chance you can go full combo, drop your 4 summons, drop your 4 bodies, and your last summon be this Vanities. They can't nib you, and obviously you got to be careful because you can't extend past this because neither player can special summon, but it really locks them down. And at that point, they have to open either the Droplet or the Imperm. If they don't, they're pretty much just cooked. You're going to have all your Kashtira bodies and protection and effects, and then you're just going to completely lock out a summoning mechanic that is so critical in modern-day Yu-Gi-Oh! So this is really, really good going first. The kings of going second, as always, 3 evenly matched and 3 lava golem. There is little to no cards that have so much utility and versatility going second. These are amazing board clearers, and I just stand by them forever. There's little to no decks you'll see me run that don't proc playsets of each of these specifically for going second to rip up boards. That is the deck profile. Really quick, I'm going to go through the results of the tournament. Again, it was roughly around 20-player tournament. I did end up getting second place. I won $30 credit. This is like a little credit thing that they do here at the OTS. Of course, it was $10 entry fee, so we got one OTS 24, and then we got a single booster of Phantom Nightmare. Matchups for round 1, and also another thing that was pretty incredible about this that I'm pretty proud of, at least with this particular build and my matchups and kind of my hands and everything that came to be in the event. I only lost one round, obviously the last round, against the player who got first place, and that last fourth and final round was the only round that I lost a single game. The first 3 matches I did not lose a single game. I 2-0'd all 3 of the first opponents. So that was pretty nice. Round 1 was against an Altergeist player. He did side Secret Village, but I think he said that during game 2, I don't think he mained it. I think he sided it in, which is very detrimental against us because we need our magic cards. But I hit 2 of them. I sniped 2 of them with the Rise Heart Banish, which was pretty incredible. So I was able to just, smart player, good guy. I just happened to just draw more premium and just get, a little bit more access to my resources. So flat out victory on that, won both games. Round 2 I went into played a Reptile, Pile, Alien, Negate, Turbo. They have this like trap card where it basically puts A counters on all your monsters, and they have this link that any monster you control has an A counter, it goes to defense, and then its effects are negated. So really, really blowout, crazy combo. Scareclaw was key. Scareclaw obviously was not affected because you can, the effect to attack and apply its defense is not an activated effect, and I was able to actually summon that, run over the link, and stop the negation of my monster effects and stop basically the try-hard effect of proccing everything in defense. So that was a key play against that player in game 2, but was able to win flat out both games for round 2 against the Reptile, Pile, Alien, Negate, Turbo. Round 3 was against a Fire King Snake Eye player, and fortunately I won the dice roll. I opened up Macro Cosmos, so I had full combo, set Macro Cosmos, passed to him. He played Wanted. I chained Macrocosmos to the Wanted, and he pretty much, he scooped. He scooped game 1. Game 2, unfortunately, I think he may or may not have excessively bricked, because essentially he was going first. Game 2, he set 1 card face down in his Magic and Trap Zone, and he passed over to me. I drew. I immediately opened up with Dimensional Fissure, so I slapped down Dimensional Fissure in my main phase 1, and then as a follow-up, there was kind of, that was pretty good, but other than that, I didn't really have much engine, so then I went immediately into Prosperity. As soon as I dropped the Prosperity under the Fissure, he scooped. He got up and left, and he pretty much just capitulated. So that was a 2-0 victory, so flat out won that. Was very fortunate to draw my removal cards to take out the big meta deck, Fire King Snake Eye. And then round 4 was again against a branded Despia player. I was able to win the dice roll, and I won game 1 pretty flat out. I was able to get Dimensional Fissure immediately, which is really strong against branded Despia. They can't use their Mirror Jade. They can't get any kind of recursion from their graveyard utility with their fusion stuff, so it was really good. And then we went to game 2. Game 2 was a lot more elongated. We stretched out and pretty much used the majority of the match in game 2, and he played it pretty well, and won out. Towards the end, it was really grindy, but towards the end, it was pretty one-sided, and outright beat me in game 2. Game 3, there was definitely a misplay. It was a doppel between a misplay and, again, like I humbly admit defeat. When I lose, I lose. Again, we can't win them all. I never go into the room with the mentality that you're going to win them all, because it's just not realistic. So game 3, of course, I was going first. I was very, very confident. You know, I was really trying to get removal doppled with vanities, because if you have removal with vanities, you're pretty much just GG's. Brando Despia players, again, if they don't have that droplet, if they don't have that imperm, if you're under Cosmos or Fisher and you vanities, they're pretty much done. They can't fusion summon, they can't use the graveyard utility, they're pretty much cooked. So I was feeling very confident that I was going to be able to, you know, successfully draw a premium. Unfortunately, I didn't necessarily bricked, but it definitely was not a premium hand 1. And then that was a huge hit that I really didn't get, you know, either the removal or the vanities that I need to really lock out the Brando Despia player. Another critical hit, it was kind of a grinding thing, maybe had like 10 minutes or so for like the game 3. The misplay that finally sealed the deal was we were under removal. I either had Fisher or Macro, I don't remember. I procced off my Unicorn effect to rip from the extra deck, and I ended up ripping the Lubellion, which ideally the Lubellion is, you know, a really good hit from Unicorn, but in that particular situation, because I already had the removal on board, what I needed to do and what I should have done, the correct play would have been using the Unicorn to rip the Chimera fusion, because immediately after I removed the Rebellion, he went into a fusion play, summoned his Chimera, destroyed my back row, just like I lost the advantage of this disruption of removal. He had a bigger body on board. He destroyed my removal floodgates, and then he also got to proc a +2. So that was a very, you know, painful learning moment, but a learning moment nonetheless, and something that will soon not be forgotten for the next time that I play that player or that deck or whatever it may be, you know, in the future. So that was the breakdown of the tournament. Again, I got second place, was able to cop, you know, 30 credit. You know, we got our entry, 24 OTS, and then 1 Phantom Nightmare. So all around, really, really successful. And we'll just go ahead and crack these packs for you guys before we close it out for the night. Alright, so we got a Labyrinth Super here for the 24, and for the Phantom pack, we have a Secret Rare, which is, you know, pretty incredible to pull a Secret Rare out of, you know, one pack. I feel like I'm infamous for for pulling the most random Secret Rares. It's really cool. I have a pretty good luck ratio for pulling Secret Rares with a low pack count with this card, but it's always like the most randomest secrets. But, you know, by no means not complaining. You know, it's just really cool to just, you know, get, you know, nice cards in general. You can say, you know, it's subjective, a nice card, because, you know, this isn't like the most expensive secret rare, but it's also a secret rare. You know, out of one pack, it's pretty cool. So Iron Thunder, I've actually never even read this card before, so it's a counter trap, pretty cool. So really cool to get a secret though. Thank you. One last thing really quick before I close out. So just a reminder, gentlemen, please stay humble. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is made to, you know, be competitive, and I totally understand, you know, the competitive spirit. You know, everyone wants to win. Not everyone can win. And again, you can't win them all, you know. I'll say, I've said it before, I'll say it again, you know. Anyone at any time is eligible to lose. Anyone at any time is eligible to lose. You know, you can't walk into a room with a mentality that, you know, you can't lose, you can't be defeated, and that, you know, you're better than everyone else. That's just that's that negative pride. That's a really, really bad habit, and it's just a bad mentality to have. And just please stay humble. You know, I'm really thankful that I was able to get that second place. You know, I was, you know, humbled. You know, I got a humble defeat in game 3 or match 4, but just stay humble, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you stay humble, and it's hard for me to convey the words. I always get jumbled when I talk about this subject because it's something that is very impactful and very meaningful to me. But just have a good heart. Be a decent person. Render the patience, render the respect to your opponent, and just have a good time. You know, take your wins, take your losses, get your experience, but always be humble. It's great to, you know, win and top and get prize support and all these things. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you do it with humility. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been a showcasing by Autumn's Allure. My name is the White Mexican, and I will see you in the next video.